Hello, everyone. My name is Colm Hayden, and I am CEO and co-founder of Anaeko Data Engineers. We are an Octopus Deploy partner, and it is an honor to present as part of Shipped 24. This presentation will discuss the human impact of migrating and modernizing your technology stack. And the context to this is that 90% of large enterprises use a multi-cloud approach. This necessitates a mix of internal skills to manage line of business applications and third-party service providers. And adopting a deployment automation solution like Octopus Deploy can make complex multi-cloud deployments like this easy, but migrating and modernizing applications and tools, particularly those used by well-established teams and well-established processes, requires strategic planning. So today, I will share my insights from migrating applications, platforms, data, and tooling to a more modern multi-cloud architecture. And in particular, I will explore the human impact on people and process. While I will be referencing many technical principles, this presentation is designed to take a step back from the technology and to look at the bigger picture. So the agenda for today is simple. I'll first introduce Anaeko Data Engineers, who we are, what we do, and most importantly, why this gives us some knowledge and experience to discuss the next stage, migration and modernization, where I'll go through common approaches and techniques. I'll then step into the human impact, the common pitfalls of migration and modernization, the human factor, why we are resistant to change, and some of the ways that anyone undertaking a migration can address these natural instincts. And I will finally leave you with the key takeaways. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you've learned something useful that you can apply when considering migration and modernization initiatives. So who are Anaeko Data Engineers? Firstly, we are a data engineering company offering cloud and data consulting solutions and teams. And we've been operating 19 years. In that time, we've delivered over 500 projects, and we currently have a team of around 50 engineers who are multidisciplined specialists who work across many customers, and we develop repeat business with them. Our primary goal is to help our customers and partners to build and operate cloud and data platforms. And underpinning everything, our purpose is to deliver environmental and societal benefit through timely access to quality data. So we look for projects where we can make a difference. And in terms of regions, we operate primarily in Europe. We're headquartered in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and we deliver into North America, where much of our leading edge DevOps skills have been refined through decades of delivery with global service providers and hyperscalers with US headquarters. So who do we work with? Our customers and partners range from global technology providers to sector-specific organizations in regulated industries. They include communication providers, system integrators, cloud vendors, some of whom we work around and some of whom we build products for, and the software and tooling and automation tooling that sits within it, including Octopus Deploy. We work with software vendors, and by sector, we focus on health in biotech and health tech, managing large data sets, delivering connected health. We work in local and central government, helping deliver better citizen services. We deliver with transport and utilities, where environmental concerns, climate emergency, sustainability are key challenges and opportunities. And we help technology innovators build and scale platforms in the cloud, most commonly those who have large data sets to manage and mine. And if I pick out a couple of these relevant to migration and modernization, for land and property services, they're the largest revenue generating government department in Northern Ireland. And we delivered a cloud readiness assessment. So that reviewed their line of business applications to inform a cloud migration roadmap. And as a large government department, they had certain aging applications that they needed to refresh. They also had skills that needed to be refreshed, and this is a common theme we will go through today. A customer also Next. So as part of a tools migration, we worked alongside Octopus Deploy to train Next staff within this retail conglomerate in deployment automation. And that's an important step in migration, is training the staff so they're familiar with the tools from the outset. For a US innovator, Tidalscale, they're an innovator in software-defined servers. We developed CI/CD pipelines and infrastructure as code provisioning of on-premise, private, and public cloud infrastructure. And that's an interesting example because they were developing their own products while we were parallel building a refreshed CI/CD setup. And then another example of migration and modernization amongst this wide and varied group is TransLink. They're a regional bus and rail operator. And we have an ongoing projects with them where we perform cloud migration, migrating data services to Azure data platforms, and migrating certain applications to AWS, Amazon Web Services, to run as a managed service. And so from this rich and varied experience is where I draw many of the migration and modernization insights I will share today. So it's worth repeating that we are an Octopus Deploy partner. And we are a partner not because we chose to invest in Octopus Deploy, which we did, but because it fits so naturally within our multi-cloud practice. Because we work around Microsoft Azure, delivering migrations, building data platforms, and reporting as data engineers using typically Power BI reporting. We're an AWS partner. We're a public sector partner for AWS also. And for many customers, we commence with a well-architected review to look at the processes that exist and the opportunity to improve efficiency, performance, cost control, sustainability. As a data engineering company, we build and manage data and analytics platforms, and we facilitate all kinds of AWS data migrations, and I'll touch on application migration processes later. In the DevOps space, we perform DevOps health checks. I guess many who are joining today are coming from a DevOps tooling mindset, and we perform health checks to take an independent, objective view of the tools and processes people use in order to implement DevOps automation, whether that's using Octopus, Ansible, Terraform, or it's implementing all kinds of test automation where there's a wide variety of tools we use. And as a data engineering company, we overlap this with data discoveries to understand what data an organization has, what they use from partners, how they share that, and to deliver data management and platforms in a secure and protected way. And at the core of this is automation. So Octopus Deploy fits very well into this set of practices because of its support for Azure AWS, being a DevOps tool, and where we deliver data and DataOps tooling, it enables many runbooks within that. So now that you're familiar with what Anaeko does, let's get into the detail, talking about migration and modernizing. So migrating and modernizing is a process that involves moving workloads to a new platform. And for us, most notably, that is the cloud, and then using modern technologies to improve efficiency and to deliver a better customer service and to innovate. And there are a whole range of workloads that can be migrated. Typically, we are going to cover in this session application migration, the overall cloud migration strategy, talk about data migration, and relevant to those in the DevOps and other tooling, the tools migration. But migration is very often driven by a near-term objective to reduce risk and to reduce cost, whereas modernization forms part of a long-term strategy. And while I won't go into these today in huge detail, the modernization that we see for applications that are being improved or to move on to a serverless architecture, that's been done to simplify scalability, to being moved onto a microservices architecture, to reduce the dependencies between services and to accelerate development and indeed deployment cycles. For API enablement, to improve data sharing within an organization and with partners, and federated identity, or providing single sign-on in a seamless way across the applications, platforms, and third-party vendor solutions. So looking at migration and modernization, you have to think of the migration phases. And this is where we start to consider the human impact. So the first phase in any migration is to assess where you are. It's where you evaluate your existing IT environment to determine a readiness for migration. The assess phase involves gaining a comprehensive understanding of your current infrastructure, your current applications, and what data you manage in order to find and identify the best approach for your migration journey. So we would identify workloads that are candidates for moving, create an application inventory, understand the cost and the benefits of migrating each of those applications and workloads, and be very clear about the risks and the challenges that you'll face in doing that, and making sure that you document clearly the performance and security requirements, not just to replicate them, but because this is an opportunity to improve upon them. The next stage is to mobilize. And when mobilizing, it's most important to form a migration team. And this needs to include experts from across the business. If it's a narrowly focused team, you simply won't get the understanding of the challenges and opportunities across the organization. But similarly, you won't get buy-in. And so this allows you to analyze the budgets, collate priorities. And it's important to document these clearly. And achieving consensus across this group can be difficult because of everything's important to those who manage it. So in order to allow consensus, we factor in multiple review cycles against a shared migration plan. And you do all that before you begin to migrate and modernize. So a big step of this is in the preparation, in understanding what you have and getting buy-in. And when you migrate and modernize, you start with a pilot program. So a pilot migration will help tease out unforeseen technical speed bumps. And it's vital to use that pilot to communicate and celebrate success early in order to win further support for the further migration plan. And you should follow an ordered migration plan, but still be prepared to factor in changes along the way. And at all times, monitor progress and performance and communicate that clearly. So those three steps, assess, mobilize, migrate, and modernize, are common to any migration. When we look at application migration, there's a very common framework of application migration called the 7 Rs. And I'll go through each of these one by one. So the first one is to rehost. Very often this is also referred to as a lift and shift. Very little changes in the application taken from one environment to a new environment, perhaps from on-prem Windows into a managed cloud environment. There could be a relocate which is a hypervisor level lift and shift, moving virtual machines to a cloud managed platform. You got to have a repurchase where you're moving to a new product, and we work across public and private sector, and in public procurement, there's very clearly communicated contract cycles, and reprocurement, repurchasing has an advertised period, and there's an opportunity to look at what has changed in the organization over that time, and therefore define new requirements for a new product that serves the existing functionality with some added benefits. Next, we move into replatforming. Some would call this to lift and reshape. And so it's to take an application and apply some new optimizations for the cloud. Going even further with that refactoring or re-architecting the application, refactoring will develop a new cloud native application, leveraging all of those cloud native features, some of which I described previously, the serverless functions, an API interface, and a more modular platform, and leveraging much of managed cloud services as possible. You can, of course, retain an application. Now, retaining an application typically means to just for now do nothing, but to come back and revisit that. So retention strategy from an application point of view is really only kicking the can down the line, because at some point that will have to have a review and may take on one of these other ORs. And finally, there is the final OR, to retire, to decommission an application. And we increasingly see that the organizations we deal with, some of them are growing through mergers and acquisitions. And that means that multiple applications serving the same purpose need to be consolidated. And as part of an application consolidation, some need to be retired. Also, there's an increasing prevalence of platform plays. So products that serve multiple purposes, and then the scope of their functions increase, they encroach from one application to another. So it becomes very valid and important to review which applications can retire, so that you're managing fewer applications rather than more as time progresses. When we look at cloud migration, again, in those three phases, we begin with assessing, and at Anaeko, we offer a cloud readiness assessment. I mentioned how we delivered a cloud readiness assessment for land and property services. And when you consider the journey to the cloud and the adoption of cloud technology, it is different for every organization. For organizations, mostly the starting point are those line of business applications, the key services that their business depends upon. And they're running a mixture of third-party software, operating systems, virtual services, and hardware. And from the highest viewpoint, these are several major factors to consider during the cloud adoption. There's the business side. What support capabilities are needed to optimize business value? Very critically, there's the people. What training, communications, and change management is necessary to bring your people with you? There's the governance, managing and measuring the business outcomes. There, of course, is the platform, and developing and optimizing the use of cloud platform for solutions and services. Paramount to this is security, designing how workloads are deployed in the cloud and how tools, including Octopus Deploy, can be leveraged to maintain and improve security postures for the organization. And there's everything that's to do with operations, enabling system health, reliability, and security with an agile delivery of services. So the cloud readiness assessment should consider the stakeholders responsible for each of these areas, And so when you're embarking on a cloud migration, you need to involve these stakeholders from the outset in workshops. Generally, complex organizations will have a heterogeneous portfolio, and they'll start with a hybrid approach. So as you begin to mobilize for planning, execution, and operation, you need to establish what are the hybrid and multi-cloud approaches you can use. And typically, there won't be a full jump to the cloud. We describe cloud best fit, so choosing the right applications to operate in the right place, whether that's your private data center, on-premise, or in the cloud. And this cloud best fit strategy is informed by the cloud readiness assessment. This planning process will require an understanding of existing workflows and workloads. It needs to be informed by the strategic plans. You need to distill the key business outcomes with clarity, and you need to describe how those outcomes will meet the organizational goals. The key factor is to work backwards from strategy, outcomes, and goals, and then select the enabling cloud technologies. Technology should never be the starting point, and you should assume that technology exists to support the goals. It's most important in any cloud migration journey to start simple. Look for applications where the cloud will immediately add value and migrate those first. And simple applications are those that are loosely coupled to core services or other applications. And that boosts the confidence so that you can get internal buy-in, encourage other application owners to get on board with the migration plan. And remember that transformation is an ongoing process of migrating, monitoring, and optimizing these workloads. Data migration is the process of transferring data from one storage system to another. It also refers to migrating data between formats and applications. And because Anaeko specializes in data, we have a particular focus on data migration. In fact, almost every one of our 500 projects we mentioned involved some form of data migration. So again, we start with an assessment. We call this a data discovery. It's about cataloging the data sources. It's about consulting the stakeholders. It's about capturing the risk, the cost, and the value of the data you manage, both in structured and unstructured format. In the mobilization phase, you create your migration plan. So prioritizing the order, scheduling phases, doing your pre-migration planning, and considering the migration approaches, which could include storage migration from one storage system to another, database migration, and most importantly, has to have this integrity check. So pre and post migration, checking for the completeness of data. So some of the highly regulated industries we work in, information has to be retained for many years for legal reasons, and for business critical information or legally and commercially sensitive information, it's vital that not a single record is dropped during the migration process. And we would often apply during a process the medallion data lake architecture. So that's where we ingest the data, raw data, understand the change history, the logs, and these are a combination of unstructured data files. And they're stored, then moved from that bronze level to a silver level where they're cleaned, aligned, mapped, testable, and reusable, and then enhanced, that they have been enriched to a gold level, aggregated, outcome-based, summarized, and targeted in order to serve greater business value. Finally, there's tools migration. So we are very familiar here with DevOps tools, in the DevOps loop of code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor. There's code repositories, Git, GitLab, Bitbucket, And as they're moving from one to another, there's common formats there. We might be migrating from build servers, Jenkins, GitHub Actions, in test, adopting new test-driven development, behavior-driven design, tools like Selenium, Cypress, Robot, Behave. In release, you can have the cloud or the stack native technologies like Azure pipelines, or the common multi-cloud approach like Octopus Deploy for release and deployment. And in operation and monitoring, we're increasingly seeing the move from logging and tracing and application performance monitoring towards a more holistic observability, where product owners want to understand how customers are using their tools. And we would perform a DevOps health check to inform that move. And the DevOps health check might look at lead time for change, the change failure rate, the deployment frequency, the mean time to recovery. There's also, Octopus will fit within these environments, as I say, in a multi-cloud, fitting between those continuous integration servers, the repositories, the runbook operation, the various environments you're managing from development, staging, production across AWS, Azure, and Kubernetes environments. But we also look at IT service management tools and things like service desks, configuration management databases, IT asset management. And very often in organizations, there's a cultural shift here from dev to DevOps. You build it, you run it, from logging to observability, delivering observability dashboards. And in IT service management, in capturing that change on internal desktop state, and mirroring and merging that with the new cloud managed virtual desktops. So from a human impact point of view, there's some common pitfalls, there's a resistance to change, and there's a way to overcoming resistance. And at an individual level, change can elicit a wide range of emotions, brings about feelings of excitement and anticipation for what lies ahead, but it can trigger fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. And this is because change disrupts our sense of stability, predictability, and pushes us out of our comfort zone. So those who like change see this as an opportunity to improve themselves. Those who fear change can be stressed by it and consider it a threat. And this is why organizations made up of all kinds of individuals face this human impact. So the common pitfalls are failing to explain the benefits. If the migration is forced upon somebody, they will resist. It's common to set the wrong expectations. Don't make this seem to be a smooth path. It won't be. Particularly at executive level, it's important to explain that there will be challenges. This should be communicated as a valuable learning exercise. Don't stick to a plan at all costs. It needs to be adaptable. For example, the TransLink operator, transport operator called TransLink that we worked with, they recently opened a major transport hub to improve bus and rail services. And so our migration plan of technology had to stop because key individuals were involved in a much more significant physical infrastructure project while we were working on their cloud infrastructure. You can be at risk of doing too much at once. Take it in small steps. See and communicate change. Understand that you're improving, not replicating. Focus on what is gained, not what you're trying to mirror, particularly when you're refactoring an application. It's the improvement that's important. And don't forget to train. Training too little or too late is a challenge. So the resistance to change comes from the fear of the unknown, a lack of confidence in the systems, a lack of training, an organizational culture that needs to adapt from dev to DevOps. And so in order to overcome this resistance, support and training needs to be provided from the outset. And that support and training helps get buy-in for those that you need to develop this along the way, and invest in training. Emphasize the positive vision of this change, because it's going to create challenges while change is underway. And so migration is a path to an end. Communicate that positive vision. Articulate the steps you're going through to make it reality. Ensure that you have very good communication and employee relationships. Meet often, communicate across silos, across departments, and overall that resistance can be reduced. So the key takeaways: migrating and modernizing has a human impact. There will be training needs, risk, compliance, security, tools. There will be a change in workflows. You need to adapt to those and understand who and how those processes affect. There will be change to productivity and efficiency. Initially, there will be a slowdown, and you need to understand that business as usual will be slowed and then speeded up as new ways of working are introduced and the efficiencies of new tools and automation arrive. And so that human impact can be managed through clear communication, by providing support and training, and by celebrating success, both by the individuals, by the teams, and by the migration steps. So hopefully that's been of interest to you. It's drawn from our great experience at Anaeko. And of course, if you would like to get in touch with me or my team at Anaeko, here are my contact details. And we offer a zero-cost cloud migration workshop. So if you're embarking on this journey or have started in any one of those ways, please contact me and I'll be happy to help. Thank you very much.